English, First Additional Language, Lesson 19. Topic: Tenses. Turn to Lesson 19 in the Learner's Workbook. This lesson includes an individual activity with formative assessment. Integration. Learning how to use tenses correctly will help you communicate in all subjects. Prior knowledge. This lesson requires your knowledge of tenses and builds on it. Lesson overview. In this lesson you will focus on tenses.
Hello everyone, I'm Pule.
Hello, I'm Janet.
We are looking at learning outcome 4, which is language. The learner is able to use language, structures and conventions appropriately and effectively.
Now, Pule, how many tenses do you teach?
Usually what I do, I start with the 3 basic tenses.
Which are?
Past tense,
Right.
present tense,
Right.
and future tense.
Right. And having done those 3, then what do?
Then I build up on the remaining tenses, your past perfect tense, your future perfect tense, and your present perfect tense.
Right. Now, some teachers teach 3 tenses and then they say there are perfective forms, which is what Pule has just described. Or there are people like me and I teach 6 separate tenses, the ones that Pule has mentioned. Please don't be confused. It doesn't matter if your teacher says there are 3 tenses and 3 perfective forms, or if your teacher's like me and says there are 6 tenses. You still need to know 6 of them, and we call them the same things. It's not going to be a problem what exactly you say, as long as you understand that there are a number of tenses and you need to know their names and you need to be able to identify them.
Let us define tense for you. Tense is the form the verb takes to show the time at which an action or state occurs.
And our first tense is the present tense. So the first thing that the present tense does is
it indicates that something happens now.
Example:
I see the yellow bird.
The present tense also is used to show
an action that is usual or habitual.
Now, what do we mean by that? Look at the example.
Every day I come to school by minibus.
So look at the definition. The simple present is used to indicate that an action is usual or habitual. So it's what you do every day. It's a habit. Pule, what are your habits?
I go to work every day. I teach every day.
Don't we just? I have a habit of running my fingers through my hair. Okay, that's a habit. It's something you do often. So look at your example. I come to school. You're using the simple present tense to show that you do it every single day. Another use of the present tense
is to express a general truth.
And let's find an example for that.
The earth is round.
Right, it's what it always is. And another use of the present tense,
to introduce a quotation.
Right, so we say something like,
Hamlet says that Denmark is an unweeded garden.
Now when we say Hamlet says, it's in a play. We always use the present tense when we talk about a novel or a play, because it's almost as if it's happening all the time. That play is constantly happening, so use the present tense.
Sometimes the simple present tense is used to indicate a future event.
Let's look at an example.
I leave for Cape Town in the morning.
So look at the verb leave. What tense are we in?
Present tense.
But what do we actually mean?
That will be leaving
Yes,
on.
it will happen. It's a future event. So just watch that. It's a funny one and you need to watch it. Let's move on to our next tense.
The next tense is past tense. The past tense indicates that the action is completed.
An example?
He saw 3 sheep in the bay.
There's your verb, saw. What would be the present tense of the verb saw?
See.
So, I see today, but yesterday I
Saw.
Right.
The simple past tense is used to indicate that something happened at some time in the past.
Examples?
We went to the Drakensberg before Christmas.
It's happened in the past, it's finished, it's over.
It rained last night.
Again, it happened in the past, it's finished, it's over. Let's go on to the future tense.
What about the future tense? The future tense indicates that something will or might happen sometime in the future.
What about some examples?
They will see you tomorrow.
Right, it's going to happen in the future, tomorrow.
They will write their exams later this year.
Again, it's going to happen in the future, later this year.
The couple will marry on Saturday.
So those are the 3 basic tenses. They are the
Past tense,
right,
present tense,
right,
and future tense.
and those are your basic tenses. Now we're moving on to the perfect tenses.
The perfect tenses are tenses that show completion of an action in the past, the present, or the future.
So what we're saying is that that word perfect,
Means completed.
right, so not to worry, the word perfect means completed. So perfect tense means something is over, it's finished, it's happened. Right, let's look at the present perfect tense.
The present perfect tense is formed using the auxiliaries has and have with the past participle of the verb.
Right, if that seems confusing, let's see if we can just find an example.
We have lived in Johannesburg for 13 years.
What does that mean? Now we've got to go from the tense to what it means. If you say we have lived in this place for 13 years or 15 years, what does it tell you about where you're living now?
It means you are still in Joburg.
That's what's important. So the present perfect, something happened in the past, but the effect of that comes into the present. Remember, we said a perfect tense is something that's finished, over, completed. So present perfect, it's finished, but the consequences, the results are still felt in the present.
We lived in Johannesburg for 13 years.
And the question to ask is, where do we live now?
We are somewhere outside Johannesburg.
That's the important thing. Just look at those 2 sentences again. So we have lived and we are still living. We lived and we have moved.
The present perfect tense may also be used to indicate that something has happened very recently. Example, he has just written his exams. 2, that some action or event is expected. For an example, they have not yet heard whether the bank will grant them a bond.
But they're obviously waiting to hear.
Yeah. That an action has taken place during a period of time that has not yet ended. For an example, this has been Environment Week.
And it tells us that we're still in the middle of that week. That week is not yet over.
Number 4, that an event or action has taken place continually over a period of time. For example, the school has entered the debating competition for the last 6 years.
And it tells us there that they've entered for the last 6 years and presumably they are still continuing to enter that competition year after year.